So while Luigi's Mansion vs. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon was the first Thunder Compares that I ever uploaded on my channel, it wasn't the first Thunder Compares that ever went into production. The first Thunder Compares I actually had in mind and went into production quite early on was the old vs. new Spider-Man, which actually went in production around November of 2015. At this point in time, I wasn't really too sure about quitting plush videos, and I actually had somewhat of a mindset of that I was going to still continue plush videos for a little bit. I was still going to continue the format. Originally, the format was going to be similar to Striking Thunder, where I used the Mario plush doll, but instead of doing it in the background that Striking Thunder took place, I was originally going to do it on a green screen. Unfortunately, this idea was scrapped as, while at the time I wasn't doing scripting, so when it came to making this video, I was suffering really bad, and this was the moment of realization that I said, I gotta write a script for this video. So I decided to scrap the whole concept of using the Mario plush doll, because at the time I didn't have a script, and I also was doing really bad without one. So I decided to write up a script. It took me like about maybe a week or two, considering that I already had the idea in mind, so it was quite kind of easy going into this. So the first ever scripted version of this video was from around December of 2015, when I actually had somewhat of an idea of how was the old versus new Spider-Man video was going to be like. It was originally just using clips from the movies, and I wasn't really adding anything of my own, like say maybe the Thunder Compares background and all that stuff. This was all before any of that was designed, so keep in mind that this was going to be very different. The whole Thunder Compares was going to be quite different, and this was before I even said that I was going to use my face, so this is like the earliest of Thunder Compares. Unfortunately, this got scrapped because while it may look like a good video, maybe I could continue on, maybe I could have added some tweaks here and there. Here's the problem with this video. It was really boring. Like, honestly, sitting through this video was really boring, and I just did not like the video. I really did not like the video. So what I decided is that I completely scrapped the whole video in its entirety, and I decided to rewrite the script again around February, because I remember around February that I decided to rewrite the script and make it a lot more better, because I had intentions to make the video more better. So it took me around, I'd say around 3 months to edit this video together, because I had more time, because at the time I was actually working on the old versus, or I'm sorry, the Luigi's Mansion vs. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon comparison. So at the time I was still working on that, and after I finished that project, my computer decided to go crazy and decided to not work for a while. So then after a while, I finally came back and I decided to finish strong, try to finish this video, and I was able to finish this video around the middle of May, end of May, so it was quite fast, if I had to say so myself. Although the waiting time wasn't that fast, but to me, editing the video seemed really fast. It felt like a breeze. So honestly, overall, this video was a much more better improvement towards the first Thunder Compares. Yeah, what I really noticed is that there was a couple audio issues, because I remember there was one scene in particular that had a clip that was muted, and that really triggered me, because I think at the time, I just like hit the render button because I didn't think of anything. I thought like, oh, everything's just fixed at this point, but there was one scene in particular that was muted, that wasn't supposed to be muted, and that really triggered me. So that's aside the point. I mean, honestly, that's really much it. I mean, honestly, there's not really much to say about this video other than that it was a better improvement, and I'm really glad that I was able to finish this video, and I'm really glad that a lot of you guys are able to see this video.
Spider-Man has been a superhero I like since I first saw the movie, and to this day forward, Spider-Man is still even my favorite superhero. But considering there is 2 Spider-Man franchises, a third one coming in 2017, a lot of people have been asking questions for the past 4 billion years on which of the 2 Spider-Man franchises is better. Well, there's no exact answer, because there are people that say that the new Spider-Man movies are better, but then there are other people that say that the old Spider-Man movies are better. And for those people who don't know their favorite Spider-Man franchise, well, you're not alone, because I don't even know either which one I like today. And that's why today I'm going to be determining with 5 different categories on which of the 2 franchises do I like the most. Now let's start off with the story as the first category. Now, the two Spider-Man franchises have great stories, but the main question is which of the two franchises is better? Well, let's start off with the original Spider-Man franchise. The story to the original franchise is that Peter Parker starts out at a museum from the school field trip, I believe. I don't know. I don't really know. Anyways, Mary Jane finds out that one of the spiders are missing, in which then leads to the part where Peter Parker then gets bitten by the spider, blah 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 blah. He then falls asleep, in which I don't know why in the living balls does Peter Parker act like it wasn't a big deal to Uncle Ben and Aunt May. Like, seriously, he could have been dying from that bite. I mean, it's a radioactive spider, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't know. Anyways, Norman is then in his laboratory at like what, 2 a.m. in the morning? What the heck? What does he do? Okay, anyways, I know it. Anyways, he is then turned into the Green Goblin from his creation. Peter Parker then discovers he can shoot out webs, and then the whole story continues of him learning to use his abilities, creating Spider-Man, and then fighting the Green Goblin and a million different villains. And with great power comes with great responsibility. That's it. That's basically the story of Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, as supposed of trying to explain it all in the shortest way possible. And simple, and yeah. So now what does the Amazing Spider-Man focus on? Well, okay. The story begins as with Peter Parker at the age of 6 being dropped off at his uncle's and aunt's house for something that his parents have to do, which then leads to them getting killed. Anyways, we then skip to Peter Parker being around 16 or 17, and then he gets bullied by Flash. Not the super Flash, fast one, whatever, the one from Marvel, the DC, whatever. And then more random stuff goes on that I didn't pay attention to, and then we skip to the part where Peter Parker goes to Oscorp and then goes into the area's full of spider, and which leads to the part where Peter Parker goes to Oscorp. Gets to the part where Peter Parker gets bitten and then goes home. But then he figures out that all the spiders' webs and starts shooting them, and then out of nowhere, and then he goes into a search towards his parents' disappearance, and then leads to a million different things. Honestly, in terms of having to follow the story, I think the old Spider-Man franchise is much more easy to follow, mainly because of how the first movie starts out the whole franchise smooth and fast and not having to go on throughout the entire franchise, as in the new one. There are still things that you have to follow, which seem like a lot of Peter's parents, the Sinister Six, and a whole load of plot that is so much to follow through. So, yeah, a point goes to the old franchise. Now, one important element is the pacing of these movies. The first two movies are paced out really well, and which makes the movies more climatic. As in for the third movie, I don't know if I can say the same. I mean, it was alright, let's just say that. I felt like there was filler every once in a while, which would slow down the movie in terms of time, like this scene. But other than that, the story was paced out decently, but I'm going to say the movie was paced out better than the first and second, but the third was just a bit slowed down. As in for the second franchise, the first movie was really paced out well, and I felt that there wasn't much slowed down. But for the second movie, I'm sorry to say this, but I felt that they did the same thing with the third movie, but instead of slowing down, they went way too fast in terms of pacing, and I felt like there was a lot of stuff that wasn't planned out very well. Sure, this movie was setting up Sinister Six, but I think that Sinister Six should come out a little more later. Maybe after the third Amazing Spider-Man. So in terms of which of the franchises has a better pacing, it's really hard to determine and say which one, because the old franchise has two movies that had a very well pacing, while the second franchise, there was only one movie that managed to pull this off well. So in order to determine the pacing, let's look back at the two movies in the Sam Raimi's movies.